Welcome to the Enhanced Podcasts.
Today we will be discussing what learner-educator relationships look like in closed care facilities such as juvenile detention centres and adult prisons. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights discusses the right to education, which in turn implies a right to lifelong learning. Within the context of prisons, this means that all living in them should be provided with continuous access to quality education from the first day of their sentence to beyond their release. But how is this happening in practice? What structures enable or hinder access to learning in these contexts, particularly learning that's shaped by the learner? In this episode, we'll meet Annet Bakker, representing the European Prison Education Association, and Max Beek from Click F1 Netherlands, both passionate educators in closed care facilities. Through the episode, Annet and Max explain how the organisation of education in these settings works and what they do as educators to approach the specific learner's needs, despite the many structural challenges that may exist. Let's dive right into the episode. I was wondering if we could just start with you introducing yourself, the organisation that you represent, and what you're working on.
My name is Annet Bakker. I work in a prison in Holland as a teacher, and I'm in the board of the EPA Holland branch, European Prison Education Association. So I'm in the board of the Dutch branch, and in the past I was the chair of the EPA European wide. So I have relatively lots of information and experience in that field.
And Max, also you're based in the Netherlands, I understand. So where do you work and what kind of things are you doing on a daily basis?
Yes, my name is Max and I work at the Click F1. It's a educational foundation based in Utrecht in the Netherlands. And we work in a few different work fields that are everyday connected. The first one is that we work in the educational work field, especially to promote skills in the big word of digital literacy. So everything that is connected to digital literacy. So it's awareness, it's creative, it's critical thinking, it's, well, everything digital. And we do this with many types of target groups. So in, let's say, regular education, primary and secondary, but also with vulnerable target groups. And those vulnerable target groups bring us to the next work field that we're working in. And the projects that we do with the vulnerable target groups sometimes are very educative in terms of digital literacy, but are also sometimes more focused on reintegration in general. And the thing that I said, it is very connected to each other, because if you want to reintegrate, you need digital skills nowadays.
Absolutely. I mean, we've just seen in this Zoom call how we need digital skills in every day, how we might struggle with them. Now, before we dive into really the content, could either of you, maybe, Annet and Max, explain what is the lingo? What is a closed care facility? And, what happens inside of them?
Well, they're like little villages, because people tend to stay long or short, and depending on what country you're in, short sentence can be in Holland it's about up to 6 months, and probably most people will only stay for 3 months. Longer sentences are in Holland 6 months and beyond, but I know other countries start they have short sentences up to 3 years. Well, for people that have no understanding of prisons, you at least need to know that you have a remand prison, and that's up to you when you're sentenced. So to reach out to people and want to offer them some education in the remand period, they might be focused on their case and their court their court sessions. So they might not be as focused as they would be after after they have heard the verdict and they know what they're up to. So the actual prison is a place where we also have students. I myself work in a PPC, which is a psychiatrical penitentiary center within a prison. So that is a place where people have, well, all kinds of personal behavior or psychological problems that they had during that they, well, got or had already before, and maybe during the detention. Our classrooms are about, say, from 2 to maybe max 10 persons per session. And we have computers, we have several subjects we can teach.
If I've understood, it sounds like the people who know their verdict are the ones who are going into learning sessions. Who decides what's offered in these prisons for adults? Who is actually making decisions of what is being offered to learn? And also, you say it's between 2 and 10 people, but I imagine there are substantially more people, let's say, in prison. So what percentage of people living within prisons are actually going to these prisons, and then how engaged are they in these courses?
Well, the curriculum that we have is decided upon by headquarters. There's a national policy of what is a basic offer, and on whatever you show of behavior and well, most of all behavior in prison, you can be promoted, and once promoted, you can also make use of the extended offer. And the extended offer is a little bit more comprehensive than the basic offer, of course. So,
sorry, could I just ask what exactly would be the basic offer? You mean like basic digital skills?
it would be classes like Dutch for foreigners, English, mathematics, computer skills. We also have a health and safety course that is offered to everyone because that is considered to be a basic package that everyone should have once they reintegrate into society. Some prisons, they also have vocational trainings, depending on what kind of work is at hand. So it could be cleaning, it could be bicycle repair, and well, there's lots more possibilities, but it depends on what prison you're in, because not every prison can have the same offer.
Is that due to just logistical challenges, or is that a decision from, you said headquarters is deciding from a policy perspective? I mean,
Logistic.
okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you talked about, it sounds like a lot of the courses are about, of course, labor market reintegration, and you use that word of reintegration. And I know, Max, you were saying that this is also the point of a lot of the courses that you provide. Are the in juvenile prisons, are the courses so labor market focused, or because they're younger, are they a bit more hobby based?
Netherlands, we have this, I don't know if it is a law, but let's say it's a rule, and it's called that you need to have your starter qualification. And once you reach that, you are not obliged, or it's not mandatory anymore, that you follow any kind of education. And this starting qualification, it's not only by your age, but it's also with the certificates and the diplomas that you get. And most of the youngsters that are inside don't have this starter qualification yet. And which I think it's really an opportunity for them, because of they don't have this starter qualification, the institution needs to give them these opportunities, or need to reach this education out to them. Then when they finished their primary education, there is the opportunity to do some vocational training on the starter level. and then they have the opportunity to do welding and everything that's connected to metal, so metal techniques, something like that. Then everything that's connected to wood. Then you can do some different certificates like forklift and construction and logistic things. What do I forget now? Oh, there's also green courses, so stuff like gardening and maintaining the green common spaces outside. So there is a lot of starter level vocational education, but I think those are free to choose because you need to do the starter qualification, and after that, it's up to the youngsters themselves on what they want to do. But this I'm not really sure about, if they're just motivated to do something or that it's mandatory that you are containing or contributing to your different course. I don't know. But there's a lot of there are some possibilities.
So if I've understood, you enter into a juvenile centre, and essentially most people are going to end up having to follow this a starter qualification, because you said most of the individuals there don't have that. So it sounds like the rate of engagement is naturally or artificially higher because essentially they have to do it. But I'm interested, when you go into a centre, you're now an adult and you're in an adult prison and you don't have that qualification, the starter qualification, what happens then? Is that something that's obligatory in adult education or in the adult centres, or is that something that is optional? Like how is the bridge linked, I suppose, between the two different systems? I don't know if either Max or Annet, you have knowledge on that.
Well, the systems are not really connected because the juvenile education policy is organized from a different area in our organization, and because youngsters are still mandatory to follow to do their education and adults not. So when there's a lot of our adult learners that don't have their starter qualification, and in some of the prisons we now are able to get them through these starter qualifications. And Max, I think the vocational part is part of the starter qualification, because the level 2 educations, they contain a lot of practice in the vocational sector. So that's sort of some mixed courses. But this is not possible in all the prisons because you need more staff. In the juvenile centers, there's more staff because that's the way they expect more people to participate. And I think we cover about 30% of our population. I work in Zaanstad, which is one of the largest prisons in Holland. We have a population of about 1,100 prisoners, and there's 4 teachers. So yeah, we can only do as much as we can. And we
4 full-time teachers, or teachers who will just come in sometimes?
No, we 4 full-time.
Okay.
And we don't have specific subjects. We all do the same every subject. We also assist people that do distance learning on their own account, with the help of a study allowance. You can only do as much as you can, and with the groups being smaller than usual, you cannot have them all. Oh.
Right. That also explains the 2 to 10 people per class with
Yeah, really, yeah.
Not
And
as
if you have 10, the classrooms are not too big, and it also depends on what prison you work in. But maybe it's also interesting to know that apart from the formal learning that we are doing as teachers in the adult education, there's also trainers that do more like the softer skill courses, like building on relationships and family care, how to be a good father or mother, budgeting, that sort of thing. How to stay out of trouble.
And are those
How to
popular
deal with
courses?
those courses are sometimes not done voluntarily. You can choose to do them, but it can also be part of a plan because of the trouble you've been in, and then your case manager and well the general meeting can decide that it would be good if you participate in a budgeting course. But that's never without a reason. I mean, if you've got your money sorted out, they will not send you to this course. So there's more happening than just the formal learning, I wanted to say. Unfortunately, since 2013, they have abolished all the creative courses in our prisons, in our adult prisons, which is, I think, very much a pity, because it can be a nice step to motivate people to go into formal learning. If it was up to me, I would send everyone to education. And then creative courses can add so much more. Yeah.
Absolutely, that's such a shame. And in juvenile prisons, is it the same? Do you have creative courses for students, or was that also applied there?
I don't know what the daily base creativity is in the juveniles, but what I know is that the teachers in the youth detention also say, yeah, we are at school, so same holidays also are for us. But if you want to give the youngsters a schedule to get used on structure, you cannot just leave them in their groups and in their cells for the weeks that the teacher have their holiday. So they have what they called break weeks, so breaks in regular education, and those weeks are really filled in with a lot of creativity, a lot of different art disciplines, a lot of different sports. So I don't know what the rate of creativity is in regular weeks, but we have this small school holidays every 6 to 8 weeks. It's pretty frequent, and then they have weeks full of creativity and other activities.
It sounds like in both contexts, there's a number of challenges faced, of course. So you've got, if I've understood, questions in terms of the decisions being made by the powers that be and different policymakers and decision makers, budgets, logistical problems, I imagine, with the center spaces, staff numbers. For both of you who have been working in these centers, what is the biggest challenge to actually engage, like when you get face to face? What is the biggest challenge to engage learners, or for you are the other challenges more periphery to the learners themselves?
The biggest challenge, maybe there's a lot of foreigners in the European prisons, and I'm okay language wise, and I can get along quite well, but I don't speak Romanian, Polish. Yeah, Max, you do, don't you? No. But that's a problem. And there's a big problem is also a digital safety. So our possibilities are, that's not in the first contact eye to eye with the learner, but that's a big problem in the offer we can do, because it restricts us to enormously, and because everything needs to be waterproof tight, um, and that sometimes is frustrating because you want to do. So I've always worked with a lot of paper-based material on the side. Apart from, we do have computers, we do have internet on a whitelist basis. But you also want to have material to give them to use in their cells once you're gone, and the 1 hour education in the week, or 2 hours, or maybe 3 hours is gone, and the rest of the week they have to do it themselves. But there's less and less paper-based material available because everything is web-based nowadays. The publishers don't make books anymore. So luckily, I've got everything from now, and you can go back in history until the Stone Age, and then I have it. But I need a lot of material to give them, and that was that was made very clear during the COVID period, where in all the countries, European wide, we built very rapidly a sort of a network with teachers in other countries exchanging material in these different languages. That was good. Yeah.
In terms of you, Max, what is do you think the biggest challenge that you're facing, either engaging learners in the courses or the sort of problems around in the system?
The biggest one is to create a safe learning environment. So not only with the stuff that you can give them, the digital stuff or the paper or the information, but how to create a safe learning environment in a closed environment where everything is changing so much, where so much energy and headspace goes out to new people getting in, maybe a class where just someone left at the same day that you heard that you need to be there for a few years more. There's so much going on. What can disrupt this safe learning environment? And I'm not a teacher who sees them on a daily basis. For most of them, I'm just a stranger that comes in and gives some workshops in creativity and in digital skills. A big focus for me is every time to make sure and make clear that I don't see them for their crimes, but see them just as a student. But yeah, in a really brief moment, you have gained their trust, because I think you only will acquire knowledge from someone else if you in some way trust this person.
It's really interesting what you're saying about safe spaces. We speak about it obviously a lot in a regular adult education context, and then adding on the extra layer of you're mentioning very points I hadn't thought about in terms of people coming and going and such like. It's obviously a very unstable environment, I guess, in lots of ways, and they try to create that. So I ask for both of you as adult founders, educators who are working in these contexts, what do you try to do to gain the trust of learners, to build relationships? What are the tricks up your sleeve? Do you have any? Yeah, Max, you're smiling, so I'll let you go first.
Yeah, well, I think I try to be authentic in a way that I remember I'm 32 right now, and I started 7 years ago, something like that. So then there wasn't a big of an age gap between the target group and me. And I thought that being somewhat of a friend meets professional will give me a good connection. But I found out that I was too much trying to be friendly and too much trying to connect in a way that wasn't really me. And then learning in the past years to be who I really am, and in the same way try to see the youngsters for what they really are, and what I think that they really are youngsters who are capable of learning, capable of improving. So the relation between me and the class became more authentic and more real for me. And this is a thing that I'll try to tell them if they ask, why are you here? Why are you doing this? And they ask a lot of those questions. Okay, so you this is your own choice to be here right now in this closed environment for us. And I think it's really interesting because in these questions I always feel like they don't see themselves worthy for being a student, because if they say to you, why are you want to teach me something? Well, I think because you are worth to also have nice opportunities and then have nice lessons. So this is a
I think it makes perfect sense. I mean, I can, or at least from an outside point of view, it makes a lot of sense that you have to do a lot of work also on self-confidence building, all the soft skills that Annet was mentioning that are offered. Does it make sense to you, Annet? Do you have the same opinion and vision in terms of how you present yourself to learners and how they present themselves to you?
I understand completely what Max is saying, and I was going to say my trick up my sleeve is just to be myself, which is about the same. And I've just realized I'm twice the age of Max, and so and I work there in the prison on a permanent basis, so they know I am the teacher. So they don't ask me these questions, and they don't, because I'm just part of the deal. And so I think another thing that is very important is to spend time for a one-to-one uh, first intake moment, to see who are you, what do you want, how realistic is this, uh, shall we make a plan? So and to listen to what they have to say, and not, because many of my students start with, so what do you have? What can I do? I would say, that's not the right question. Just tell me what you want and let me judge whether we are able to accommodate that. And then in the end, of course, you end up to the things you can offer. But I always say I make a short term planning, but I also want to know where do you want to be later on in your, either in your detention or in your life. So and in what way does it relate to your primary plan that we can do now? And this always helps, because then they know, okay, I don't really want to do this, but it occupies me. It sets my head off, and I can start learning to learn again, and then find together we will find your way. We will find out what you want. So listening to what they want, and instead of, okay, I'll go with the flow, and what have you got? Like opening my fridge and say, what do you want to drink? No, it's the other way around.
And do you think that the learners that you're having these one-on-ones with, that they're used to being listened to, or that they know how to sort of speak in a way that you would listen?
A lot of them are used to being in the prison, and I try to break through that and say, no, I want to hear what you've got to say. And so it's sort of it's a game. It's a game, and sometimes you need more time, and that's also nice. I like that, because if people are in the beginning not so willing, or don't really know what they want, and then even if they only find out what they want, I mean, message accomplished. Yeah, mission accomplished. Sorry. Yeah.
Be interested in this concept of the game. I mean, I guess I can imagine it's an attitude you develop as someone who's in this center just to sort of as a coping mechanism. I'm guessing just, but maybe you could elaborate a bit more. Or Max was giving a nodding, a knowing look in his eyes. So, what is this game, and how does that also affect to what extent they're authentic with you, all these different learners?
I mean, I don't want to know what they're in for. I mean, it doesn't interest me. Sometimes you need to know on the safety basis, but most of the time I don't want to know. I just want to know about their plans for education. And so the game is to find out with them, and you need to adjust your strategy, because you've got very intelligent people, you've got very undereducated people, you've got experienced people, you've got lazy people, you've got hard workers. So for me, that's the challenge, to give them what they want in the quantities, and to not, when you give them something from the look, Max, you have packages that you deal with in a group, I think, and you have a course that you come and do, which is the same for all the participants in the group. My classes are very diverse. There's one person doing health and safety, another person is doing French, and another person is doing mathematics, and they're all in the same hour. If I overdo it and I give them something that is too difficult, they might stop and go away. So that's for me is a game to find the right tone, the right material, the right level, the right speed, and sometimes you just need to say, I have one student, I say, I just come and talk to you about, because now I'm a sort of more like a therapeutical environment, so I can say, I just come once a week to talk to you about education for maybe 15 minutes, and then if you do find out what you want, we will start, and just to give him some time to get used to the idea. He's very depressed and he thinks it doesn't make sense, and so that can be useful. And for another person, you find something completely different.
Where I was nodding when I heard the game, because they play the game of how to act to adults, because of what they learned, I think, to protect themselves eventually. This is what they learn.
So it's really interesting then, because you both mentioned also the level of satisfaction or that you get also from breaking these down and being that good example or trustworthy person. What do you think? I mean, obviously you can only speak about your own example, but you've seen your colleagues. What do you think motivates educators to go into contexts like this? What has motivated either of you? Max, you've been there in 7 years. Annet, you said for over 30. So what makes you want to work in these settings, and what makes you keep on coming back to working in them?
I started to work in a prison when I was still doing my professional training to be a teacher, because there was a sign on the blackboard, on the board somewhere. They were looking for interns in Chinese and in the prison in Amsterdam where I was doing my studies, and I thought, oh, this is something different, and I like something different. So I going to the regular thing that would be boring in the end of after a certain time. So I started doing this, and I was completely hooked. It's different from the ordinary schools and the curriculums and the deadlines there's more like second chance. So what didn't work the first time, maybe something works now. And I see it happening every day. So that is sort of a confirmation of what we do isn't for everyone. Some people just want to go to sports or whatever, but for those that we see, I think it works, and that keeps you going.
For a while, I worked in the festival industry, and I created things you can do on festivals except dancing and eating and drinking. So the creative part of festivals where people meet up. And we did some really nice projects, but then after a few summers, and I remember the specific festival where I was at that moment and was working there. And I was thinking, okay, I'm investing so much time and so much energy in people who are already happy. And that gets me thinking that if you can give your time and energy only once to someone, who do you want to give it to? And then I made the choice to give it to people who I think that deserves a little bit more attention, who maybe in the past couldn't get the right attention or as much attention as a human being deserves. So it was a fundamentally driven thing to, you can give your time to only once. The second that we're talking now is already spent, so make sure you give it to someone who deserves it. I think this was the answer for me. And then I came along this this target group, and I think it suits me. Think it suits me because I feel like just the same as Annet said, that I'm not curious about what they did. I'm not feeling the urge to know the things out of sensation. I just want to, yeah, be there for someone, and this is the target group that came along.
Absolutely lovely to hear. Thank you both for sharing those motivations. Maybe one last question. What do you think we can do to help improve the agency of learners in these contexts? Or do you think it's important? If you don't, you can also tell me why it's not important. But what do you think could actually be done from an educator's point of view?
I think what's really important to share with other professionals and to share the things that you are working on. And I see that so many professionals with the best intentions are doing their thing, and but maybe not all the time the knowledge that and then the experience that is created leave the facility. And I think this is such a, it's not a waste, of course, because it stays in the facility to go to the target group, but it is somewhat a waste that not all the good work is shared enough. Because in my opinion, if everyone that do some good work shared with each other, you can build on each other every time. So when there are projects that created from scratch again, I always feel like, oh, this isn't per se necessary, because the basis was already there if it was shared in a better way. So I think, yeah, sharing projects, sharing experiences, I think this is a really important part of it. Because we're focusing right now on what a teacher can do to the student, but I think it's so much bigger than this. I think that teachers can unite some way, or well,
Like improve the professionalization and the skills and the resources of all teachers in these settings. Is that what you mean?
yeah.
Yeah. That's an interesting point to think of it from like a community, like you're a community of different types of educators,
Exactly.
and not just from the individual point of view. Annet, what do you think
Well,
can be done to improve?
I can relate to that, and I think in sharing, I think on all my travels that I did during my working life, I noticed that a lot of organizations outside the actual prison organizations have no idea what that prison education exists at all. And I also, in the past, I also was in contact with EAA and EPALE and all the big players, and so now things are happening, and it's sort of accepted and common knowledge that something is happening in prisons. Can't be said enough that something is happening in prisons, and sometimes it's not received positively because people have struggles in their own lives, and they say, why is so much attention going to the criminals, whereas I'm doing my thing and I'm just being a good citizen, and I can't participate in any learning, or because I don't have the money, or so we should have the context in the right proportions, and tell them what is going on, and also the limitations. And it's not all like everything is possible. It's enormously restricted, but we make the most of what we've got. But it needs to be known what is happening. And yeah.
Well, thank you
I
very
think
much.
this is a really strong point, because it's, I think in the society and what people think of what a prison or a detention center, juvenile center, educational center, how you want to call it, but what it should be, I think there's a big team that says it needs to be punishment, and there's a big team that says it needs to be acquiring skills to can safely back into society. So it's maybe for a big group, this is an unpopular opinion to really invest in education, in creativity, in skills, because they still want to see prison as a big punishment system.
I always think, what if it was your son? that was inside, what would you wish him to do? Even if he took drugs or whatever, still your son, and you would also want him to get out better than he got in. And so this helps to, I've got children, so it helps that I always want someone to be there whenever my children are in trouble. So it's not more than that.
That's all for the podcast today, and I sincerely thank Annet and Max for taking the time to speak to me about their work and for sharing their passion about education in closed care facilities. Looking at the goals of Enhance and applying them to the context of juvenile detention centres and prisons, we've seen how educators can foster safe spaces where vulnerable groups are encouraged to share their authentic ambitions and where they learn to listen to the views of all learners. Regardless of setting, we've seen how education can be a transformative tool for personal growth, reintegration, and dignity. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned for another Enhanced podcast episode.
The music of the Enhanced Podcasts is a creation of Jason Farad and the Urban Nomadic Productions.